The Gralcan Dominion's greatest military mistake began not with a declaration of war or a formal battle cry, but with a targeting algorithm that confused a hospital ship full of burn victims and therapy dogs with a troop transport. The UNS Serenity didn't even have weapons, unless you counted the aggressive positivity of Nurse First Class Ramirez and the Labrador named Sergeant Snuggles, who had more confirmed emotional rescues than half the Dominion's infantry. When the ship vaporized in a fireball above the moon Caldra 6, the Galactic Council paused for 12 seconds. Humanity, however, paused for none. Somewhere in low Earth orbit, Commander Andrea Andy Steele was halfway through a sarcasm-laced testimony at a war crimes tribunal, her 5th that year, when a whisper swept through the secure comm link embedded in her collar. UN Serenity. Destroyed. Immediate reallocation authorized. Protocol Kraken. Phase 1 green. She didn't even flinch, just muttered, "About damn time," stood up mid-tribunal, and left the room with a stride that made 2 alien ambassadors drop their mugs of diplomacy tea. She boarded the UTS Blood Humor, a stealth cruiser designed like a sleek scalpel with a caffeine addiction, and within 12 hours, humanity's apology letter to the galaxy was already en route, handwritten in plasma torpedoes and weaponized sarcasm. Meanwhile, deep in the florid absurdity that was the Gralcan Dominion's central war chamber, Admiral Fregthar Zurn was busy slapping his ceremonial shoulder blades in pride, declaring victory over primitive mammals with emotional armor deficiencies. His officers clacked their claws and tried not to look nervous as he ordered a commemorative tapestry be woven to celebrate the destruction of a significant human military asset. The logistics officer, Captain Gleep, who had the survival instincts of a cockroach and the sarcasm of a drunk translator, attempted to point out that the target was, in fact, a hospital ship. Zurn waved him off with a dismissive flex of his cranial fronds, bellowing something about necessary collateral and honor by explosive diplomacy. That exact moment, 72 human warships decloaked around the Gralcan frontier, synchronized like a ballet company suffering from rage issues. Every one of them was named after either a famous human grudge or a heavy metal album. The UTS No Chill, UTS Irony Protocol, and the ever-classy UTS Let's Not Do This led the formation. Their weapons were charged, their hulls shimmered with defensive sarcasm, and their commander, broadcast live across Gralcan channels, stood front and center like a Valkyrie who drank rage for breakfast and flossed with diplomatic immunity. Commander. Steele wore scorched tactical armor with neon seam lines glowing like judgment incarnate. Her platinum blonde braid was looped tight and dangerous, and her coffee mug, which dangled from a carabiner at her belt, read, "World's #1 Soul Auditor." She stared down the broadcast lens, sipped black coffee with the calm of a woman who'd already emotionally buried her enemies and said, "You atomized medics and therapy dogs. So we're here to discuss consequences. Kindly update your will and brace for existential feedback." The Gralcans had no word for "oh crap" in their language, but the noise that came from Admiral Zurn's mandibles was close enough. Within the hour, coordinated human strikes began. Not on cities or civilians, but on military satellites, fleet supply chains, and their sacred capital plumbing node, causing immediate and spectacular bidet failure across the entire palace complex. Human drones hijacked propaganda holoboards, projecting images of therapy dogs in tiny battle armor with the caption, "They were here to heal. You brought explosions. Now we bring snack time." Back on the Blood Humor, Ensign Cheeto, the ship's glitchy but oddly cultured AI, announced over the internal comms, "Initiating tactical playlist, vengeance jazz for war crimes and light breakfast." As the dulcet tones of saxophones and orbital bombardments collided, Steele leaned back in her command chair, legs crossed, and said with a grin, "Phase 1 complete. Let's begin psychological defenestration." Somewhere, deep in the Dominion's bureaucratic bowels, an intern screamed, A bidet exploded, and the High Committee of Unquestionable Overlords began arguing over whether they could reclassify the war crime as a diplomatic misunderstanding with medical combustion. They had no idea that humanity wasn't even mad yet. They were just disappointed. And that was worse. The Gralcon Dominion's official war response protocol, formerly titled Shriek, Swarm, and Hope They Faint, was activated with all the grace of a panic attack in a marching band. Admiral Zern, still basking in the ceremonial echo of his self-awarded Medal of Preemptive Triumph, ordered the Grand Armada to mobilize. 1,000 gleaming warships, adorned with ornamental antennae, useless side plating, and motivational engravings, lurched from the docks in majestic confusion. Their mission, full-scale invasion of Sector Theta 92, also known in human tactical slang as the Punchline. Meanwhile, Commander Andy Steele was busy implementing Protocol Kraken, Phase 2, known internally as Audit and Annihilate. Human fleets didn't just warp into enemy space. They materialized with artistic disrespect, choreographed like interstellar flash mobs trained in aggressive sarcasm. Every ship's comms blared quotes from Earth literature, philosophy, and trashy revenge flicks. The UTS Consequential Pancake dropped into Gralcon orbit broadcasting. If you can read this, you're too close to the last mistake your species will ever make. The Dominion responded with grand proclamations, fleet maneuvers, and one deeply unfortunate poetry broadcast involving honor, shells, and an awkward crab mating dance, cut off mid-stanza when Steele's fleet surgically removed their main transmission hub with what could only be described as sniper-grade orbital contempt. The first battle didn't last long. Human gravity weapons, affectionately nicknamed space blenders, folded Gralcon cruisers like soggy origami, each implosion triggering a reaction more emotional than tactical. One Gralcon captain yelled, "Our ancestors demand honor!" before colliding with the back end of his own admiral's flagship. Somewhere in the chaos, Captain Gleep, having predicted the disaster with the dead-eyed resignation of a public school lunch lady, ordered a full retreat and sent a memo titled, "Told You So," to Central Command. On the blood humor, Commander. Steele stood with arms crossed and zero visible stress as her strike teams coordinated synchronized hit and runs, each one signed off with a sarcastic comm burst. Her personal favorite? "You fired on our medics. We're here to audit your soul." Receipts enclosed. Back on Gralcon Prime, the High Committee of Unquestionable Overlords argued furiously inside the Dome of Infinite Echoes, a building famous for architectural overcompensation and the acoustic perfection of screaming in circles. One overlord suggested retaliation by launching their Omega beam, only to discover that humans had already disabled it, filled the control room with pink foam, and left behind a music cube looping "Never Gonna Give You Up" in 7 languages. The cultural devastation was total. As the Dominion tried desperately to salvage its reputation, Commander Steele shifted tactics. She launched a new phase, emotional demolition. This included hacking enemy propaganda to feature human troops sharing care packages with alien civilians, footage of Gralcon admirals being pantsed mid-briefing by stealth drones, and a viral video of Steele herself dramatically removing her sunglasses before saying, "You think this is war? This is counseling." The Gralcon public, previously conditioned to see humans as rage beasts wrapped in meat, began questioning everything. Their memes, once proud declarations of honor and crustaceous legacy, were now self-deprecating images of crustaceans crying in showers labeled, "When you realize humans sent medics and you sent war crimes." Even soldiers began faltering. A frontline commander, upon seeing a drop pod containing snacks and a polite surrender form, simply sat down and wept into his utility clause. Commander Steele watched the chaos unfold from orbit, sipping her diplomatic coffee, now upgraded to espresso with vengeance foam. "Phase 2, she said, voice calm but gleeful, has been a resounding psychological success. Gralcon pride is currently stored in a damp sock under the bed of galactic history." Ensign Cheeto chimed in helpfully. "Shall I prepare your victory playlist, Commander?" "Not yet," she smirked. "Let's give them one more chance to embarrass themselves." I'd hate to cut their education short. At that moment, a Gralcon transmission came through, an official declaration that humans were ungentlemanly, dishonorable, and allergic to proper warfare. Steele's reply was short. She held up a signed photo of a golden retriever in combat gear. "This is Sergeant Snuggles. You vaporized his ship. You don't want to know what happens next." And then she dropped the line. All across the stars, Gralcon generals stared at each other in dawning horror. Humanity wasn't retaliating. Humanity was teaching a lesson, slowly, publicly, and with enough mockery to unravel centuries of imperial pride. By the time the Dominion's Fleet Reorganization Bureau realized they'd scheduled a mandatory military parade on the same day as their third planetary supply line implosion, it was already too late. Commander Andy Steele wasn't targeting territory. She was targeting dignity. Task Force Kraken, now operating like a coordinated insult campaign with orbital capability, began deploying non-lethal psychological payloads with tactical precision. Drones that hijacked Gralcon news channels to show edited footage of Commander Zern tripping over his own ceremonial regalia. Supply crates filled with glitter that exploded on opening, and synchronized hack ads, broadcasting Steele's infamous smirk with the caption, "Your honor system is crashing, please reboot." The crowning blow came when human operatives hijacked the Kragnos research station, a Gralcon fortress of science, secrecy, and unhealthy ego. No shots were fired, no alarms triggered. The entire base was disabled with a virus disguised as a recipe file titled Earth Spaghetti Protocol. Inside the main briefing chamber, Gralcon scientists discovered a single glowing cube. Upon activation, a full-body hologram of Commander Steele flickered into view. Arms crossed, expression halfway between therapist and war goddess. In her left hand, a protein bar held like a ceremonial blade. Her message crystal clear. Civilians would be spared. Soldiers who stood down would be fed, not shot. But the officers responsible for the hospital ship? They were on the very serious list. Refusal to comply would trigger Phase 3. Strategic disruptions so intimate, so inconvenient, they would haunt generations. "We start with plumbing," Steele explained, tone like silk over a bear trap. "Then we move to food. You'd be amazed how much salt ruins an economy. Phase 3 ends with every one of your military pants being replaced by breakaway tearaways. Let that image sink in." The Gralcon military elite watched in stunned horror as the projection concluded with a calm namaste and a wink. Admiral Zern, upon reviewing the footage, reportedly screamed, "She winked! She winked!" before attempting to delete himself from the chain of command. Meanwhile, human operations escalated not through firepower but through humiliation. During a so-called secure broadcast from the High Committee of Unquestionable Overlords, human hackers replaced the closing anthem with Earth's ancient sacred combat hymn, the theme song to The Benny Hill Show. Citizens of Gralcon Prime laughed, then gasped, then laughed harder. Military discipline collapsed as troops discovered their ration packs had been replaced by apology letters from human children, each one more passive-aggressive than the last. A 12-year-old named Frankie wrote, "Dear crustaceans, sorry your empire sucks at aiming. Maybe don't nuke hospitals next time?" And attached a drawing of a Gralcon admiral getting kicked by a dog in a lab coat. Mutinies erupted. A fleet-wide vote saw 38% of soldiers demanding new leadership, 22% requesting transfer to human custody, and the remaining 40% asking if they could simply join humanity outright. Steele, monitoring the implosion from the blood humor, smirked as Ensign Cheeto cheerfully announced, "Gralcon morale is down 87%. Approval of human snacks is up 450%. Shall I launch the mimetic contagion package?" "Not yet," she replied. "Let's see if Zern cries in public first." In desperation, the Dominion convened a secret emergency council inside the unquestionable panic chamber, a bunker so over-engineered it took 20 minutes just to unlock the honor seals. Their final plan? One last full-scale broadcast to assert dominance, reclaim narrative control, and, hopefully, shut down the human meme assault. It aired exactly once. Mid-speech, a stealth drone floated gently behind the overlords, played a slide presentation titled, "This is why we can't have nice empires," and projected real-time analytics showing human-led opinion polls from within Gralcan space. Slide 4. Top 10 reasons your empire is now a sitcom. The number 1 reason. Because our protagonist brought snacks and you brought a monocle to a thermonuclear ethics debate. The broadcast ended with Steele's voice, slow and surgical. This isn't conquest. This is an intervention. Gralcan society began to fracture under the pressure of being a galactic punchline. Their sense of superiority, once impenetrable, was now riddled with human comedy and empathy grenades. And as the final wave of confusion settled over their crumbling military doctrine, the words of Commander Steele echoed across their remaining frequencies. Phase 3 begins tomorrow. Prepare for cultural whiplash, and wear clean socks. We're coming aboard. At precisely 0600 Terran Standard Time, with the quiet grace of a mother entering a room already trashed by toddlers, Commander Andy Steele authorized the final stage of Protocol Kraken, Phase 4, an operation officially designated Operation Blanket Party, unofficially known among Task Force Kraken as the part where we rebuild you without your permission. But instead of fire and fury, humanity sent the Sanctuary Arc 2, a 30-kilometer-long mobile city in orbit, a refugee vessel, humanitarian beacon, and walking guilt trip all in one. Gralcan civilian channels lit up in disbelief as the humans began offering food, medical care, and actual therapy to shell-shocked crustaceans, often accompanied by leaflets saying things like, "This is what compassion looks like. Weird, right?" The ship itself broadcast lullabies, projected images of Earth rainforests, and piped a slow rendition of Bridge Over Troubled Water into the Dominion's emergency frequencies. On the surface, the Gralcan High Committee screamed about psychological warfare. In orbit, Andy Steele calmly sipped her coffee and replied via direct hololink, "Not psychological warfare, emotional disarmament. You might want to sit down. Your people already did." The Dominion's own populace was now openly refusing orders, forming protest circles and posting "I Human Snacks" signs on military checkpoints. Entire garrisons dropped their weapons just to board the Sanctuary Arc's snack bay. One Fleet Rear Admiral renounced his titles, put on a borrowed hoodie, and began handing out pamphlets that read, "Maybe honor is overrated. On the blood." "Humor," Ensign Cheeto announced. "Admiral Zern's flagship has turned off life support to the honor speech recording room. Shall I update our sarcasm inventory?" Steele waved a hand. "Wait. Zern's not done self-destructing yet." Sure enough, in a final, desperate act of bravado, Admiral Fregthar Zern initiated a galaxy-wide broadcast from a tattered throne room, surrounded by flickering lights and increasingly confused aides. "The Dominion will never surrender." "To mammals with punchlines and snack food," he rasped, just before the door behind him burst open and a Gralcan lieutenant marched in, holding a surrender flag made from their own ceremonial tapestries. The aide saluted, turned to the camera and deadpanned, "We're done now. She brought cookies." The broadcast ended with the sound of Zern sobbing into a crushed metal. Within hours, the Dominion's capital city hosted a spontaneous street party involving laser light shows, multilingual karaoke, and humans handing out commemorative stickers that said, "I survived a polite invasion." Andy Steele, standing atop a landing platform draped in tactical neon, gave the final speech to the galaxy with all the flair of a sarcastic TED Talk. "We didn't come to destroy your empire," she said, as hundreds of alien cameras zoomed in on her face. "We came to uninstall your war DLC and reboot your species. Your save file was corrupted. You're welcome." She listed the terms of peace in her usual bored, deadly tone. Full disarmament of offensive systems, court-martials for those responsible for the Serenity incident, education programs on Earth ethics, and of course, complimentary snack shipments for all evacuees. The Gralcan Council, now rebranded as the moderately questionable Overlord's Advisory Group, signed with trembling claws and downcast eyes. A few cried. One tried to hug Steele. She deflected with a shoulder roll and a muttered "Boundaries, people." Then she turned, coffee steaming in hand, braid swaying like a battlefield flag, and walked off the platform without waiting for applause. The image was instantly broadcast across 17 systems and added to 3 separate religious texts. Ensign Cheeto, not one to miss a final jab, piped up in her earpiece, "Shall I prep the mission debrief, Commander?" Steele smirked. "Label it, Operation We Told You Not to Poke the Apex Predator." As humanity quietly exited the battlefield they never wanted, the galaxy sat stunned, not by the carnage, but by the absurd, weaponized mercy of a species that could forgive, outwit, and meme you into surrender without firing a final shot. The last thing the Dominion would remember wasn't the warships or the technology or even the snacks. It was the unflinching stare of a human SEAL who said, with absolute calm, "You nuked a medevac, so we brought you peace, one devastating joke at a time."